Shake down, break down, take down, everybody wants into the crowded line. Take down, break down, you're busted. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Movie Emporium's movie review of the fourth entry in the Beverly Hills Cop series, which is called Axel F, and it's directed by Mike Molloy. Alright, Beverly Hills Cop, very famous franchise, some lows, some highs, classic first movie. Here we have a brand new entry into the franchise, and it sees Eddie Murphy once again jet setting to, of course, Beverly Hills to protect his daughter who he's estranged with. In the process of everything, something happens to the Judge Reinhold character. In the process of everything, of course, Eddie Murphy's Axel Foley finds out that there's a conspiracy going on, and he has to navigate Beverly Hills in a very much Beverly Hills Cop sense. We, of course, have John Ashton returning. We, of course, have newcomers like Taylour, Paige, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and it's, in essence, a Beverly Hills Cop movie. It's a guy from Detroit going back to Beverly Hills Cop to stop bad guys. That's a lot of hand waving. I'm sorry about that. That's how excited I was to see this movie, Beverly Hills Cop Axel F. Beverly Hills Cop is a beloved franchise at this point. It's one of especially the first one is one of my favorite action comedies of all time. It's up there with like Ghostbusters and Back to the Future as pure classic. You know, Eddie Murphy in the 80s was doing pure comedy gold, pure action gold. He was the star of the 80s and stuff like that. And you know, Beverly Hills Cop had a trajectory that went kind of downhill. Beverly Hills Cop 2, Tony Scott's film, was actually quite good. I enjoyed it. Beverly Hills Cop 3, the John Landis film, not so much, to be fairly honest. That's just kind of how it plays in the unfortunate nature. But this movie, Beverly Hills Cop Axel F, is a movie that's been in kind of development hell since like the early 90s, to be fairly honest. This is a movie that was supposed to be filmed and shot like recently afterwards and then got pushed back. Brett Ratner was involved. Adil and Bala, of course, were involved to do this film, but they went off to do Bad Boys, the Bad Boys franchise, which I think was a much better fit for them. And so eventually everything worked out. Netflix bought the rights to this movie. I don't know why Paramount's not involved, but it's a movie that, at least from the trailer, looked like it was heading in much better directions than the third movie that was, unfortunately. It's not really a high bar to set. But here, Axel Foley, Eddie Murphy's character, is returning, is bringing back John Ashton, is bringing back Judge Reinhold, is, of course, bringing back Paul Reiser and Bronson Pinchot. And it's a movie that I was highly not anticipating, was highly excited to watch because I love Axel Foley so much. Very iconic character. So in that essence, my honest review of this movie might feel like I'm being really negative, but I gotta be honest, I still enjoyed this movie. The problem with this movie, not the fact that I didn't enjoy it and had a good time, and it's definitely a huge step up from the third film, but it's what the problem with like Jurassic World, The Force Awakens, all these movies being brought back that are classic franchises. And this movie turns into nostalgia bait. And what I mean by that is they take characters like Bronson Pinchot. They take the idea of going to Beverly Hills Cop. I mean, it's Beverly Hills Cop, so I'll let that slide. The action sequences, the shots that Mark Molloy and his director or cinematographer and stuff like that make, the music, though Lauren Balfe's music is actually quite good in the score, the fact that they repeat certain themes and certain ideas, and the fact that it's the fourth film in the franchise, and this is the same thing that happened in Ghostbusters Afterlife. I think this franchise is wearing thin on the simple fact that I think it needs to do something fresh or not have a cop go from Detroit to California again. I mean, my main problem with this movie is I don't think that it really needed to be made, to be fairly honest. I'm glad it's made because, you know, it is an enjoyable movie. It has fun action set pieces. I think most of the characters are well put together in this film. You know, it's nice to see John Ashton. It's nice to see Judge Reinhold in this movie. But there are points in this movie where I'm going, they're just repeating beats from the first movie, or they're repeating beats from the second movie. Oh, they're using musical keys or musical songs from the first and second movie. You don't need to do that. Create something new. I mean, once again, we're going into bad guy territory. Bad guys are up to no good. They're smuggling something. It's a rinse and repeat type of problem. And I think this is on the precipice of, I think they were so angsty and so wanting to make a sequel that they never really thought maybe we could try something new and wholly fresh. And it it feels like the same thing over and over, and that becomes a problem. And it's not, once again, I don't blame the actors for doing this film, because it's Eddie Murphy, who is iconic as an actor, seems to have been spinning his wheels for quite a while. And then he did a couple films, I think it was for Netflix, it was called Dolomite Is My Name, and then he did like Dreamgirls and stuff like that. And there is a level to Eddie Murphy where you can feel that he is on the precipice of having a resurgence, and then he does a couple movies, but then he goes back to a schlock that he's always done in the early 90s or late 90s and 2000s. And it's such a shame, because this movie points to the fact that when Eddie Murphy is allowed to riff, when he's allowed to do his thing, it works pretty well. This movie is very vulgar. It really feels like Eddie Murphy going back to the well, though I do feel like Eddie Murphy looks a little bored in this movie, to be fairly honest. I think it's just Eddie Murphy being Eddie Murphy, to be absolutely honest. But it's a huge step up from Coming to America, the sequel, which really felt just kind of a downtrend of a film, to be absolutely honest with everyone. I felt that film, I enjoyed it, but then I kind of liked it less and less. My other major problems with this film is Judge Reinhold is an actor who I'm sure jumped at the chance to do this film. He's been in it all, the last 3 films. He's just not in this film very much. And that's such a shame, because when you bring back John Ashton, who had such great chemistry in the first 2 films with Judge Reinhold as those 2 like really good friends, and then you kind of take that away, it feels like one side is missing, because not to spoil what exactly happens, but Judge Reinhold pops up because he's kind of a godfather to Eddie Murphy's daughter, who's played by Taylour Paige, and then he just disappears through most of the movie until we get to like close to the end of the movie. And that's such a shame, because I would have loved to see Judge Reinhold and John Ashton just kind of work together, and there's some of that in this movie, but I feel like there's not enough, and it feels so wasted. It feels like they're trying to aim for a particular angle, and it just doesn't entirely work. And it's the same thing with Bronson Pinchot's character, who, like the first movie was such a strike of genius to have Bronson Pinchot play the art gallery owner of who was working under Victor Maitland or whatever. Of course the main female protagonist was of course Axel Foley's friend. But that character of Serge was such a hilarious, just kind of insane performance, but it's small, it's contained, it doesn't last very long. And then when they brought him back for 3, it felt so hammy and hackneyed. And then they do the same thing here with Bronson Pinchot, which is the nostalgia bait problem, where they bring him back into this movie, they have some funny moments, and they repeat some funny kind of back quips. Like when Axel goes, "Get the F out of here," he's like, no, this is serious. And it's just like, that's funny, that's cool. And then kind of he just becomes a background noise of a character. He doesn't really do much, and he just kind of disappears from the movie. I think it's one of those problems where I feel like Bronson Pinchot is brought back because the audience loved him from the first movie, but he's a one-off character, and it really shows in the third movie and this movie that you didn't need to bring back Bronson Pinchot. It just doesn't work. It feels like a joke that keeps getting repeated to the point where it's just not funny anymore, and that's a problem, to be fairly honest. And I didn't really love it very much. And then on top of everything, you bring in Paul Reiser, who I think works because they're doing the exact same thing what they did with the first and second movie. But once again, it's just more nostalgia bait, to be fairly honest. I loved Paul Reiser. I think he's competent, but there was a kind of goofiness, a kind of off-kilterness to his character in those first 2 movies that doesn't play very well here, to be fairly honest. It feels like they're just bringing back Paul Reiser, and that's what I'm kind of getting my problems with the movie, is that they keep doing that, where they keep bringing back and they keep doing things that just didn't need to happen. But most of the story is fun and entertaining. Like I said, I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who plays one of the police officers in Beverly Hills, is a lot of fun, is entertaining, works well with Eddie Murphy. I think he is playing a very stereotyped character because of how he's involved with Taylour Paige, who's the daughter of Eddie Murphy's character, Axel Foley. I do think it's a little contrived that Axel Foley is, not really with his daughter, is not really, connected with his daughter, so they have to have that storyline. But whatever, they have good chemistry, so I kind of forgive it for that. I think it's nice to see. I think it's a little weird that the John Ashton was brought back to be the police chief, but I think he does a pretty competent job for his age. He's actually quite good. He gets a lot to do in this movie, to be fairly honest, for the amount of time he's in it. And once again, because he was missing from the third film, there is something missing there that actually is brought back, which I appreciate. So I like John Ashton. Kevin Bacon is Kevin Bacon. He's not really much. There's not really much to his role, to be fairly honest. You kind of see where it's going and how it's going, and it's also nice to see that they give a little bit development to Axel Foley's character. They allow him to expand and become a little more cohesive. Once again, you know, he's interacting and he's playing off the things that are happening in Beverly Hills. The fact that Beverly Hills is much more, you know, PC in this movie is a little interesting, and the things that happen to him are fun, and the intro action sequence is fun, and it's entertaining. But once again, my major problem with this movie is just this nostalgia bait problem. It's just it tends to repeat, and it tends to continue the Force Awakens and Ghostbusters Afterlife, and you know, all these movies that don't seem to be original takes. They seem to be kind of repeats and redos of the original franchise version movie, like the first movie. With that aside, with all my negativity aside, I still was entertained. I still had fun. There were parts where it's very, very funny, very entertaining. It's nice to see, you know, Eddie Murphy come back after so many years to do this role. I guess I expected more, to be fairly honest. I don't know. It makes me sound like I'm like being, you know, really, really down on this film. But, you know, when you have a franchise that has two great movies in it and then one terrible movie, you don't know what's going to happen. And once again, this is from a director who's untested. This is his first actual, at least from what I see in his like IMDb, this is like his first actual feature film. Like somebody like Joseph Kosinski, the guy who did Top Gun Maverick, there is potential here, and I think if Mark Molloy or Molloy, however you say his name, continues this route, given these kind of big budget films like he is, I think he has potential to be a pretty decent action director. So with that said, that's kind of where I land on Beverly Hills Cop Axel F. Once again, it's a entertaining movie. You'll enjoy, if you love the nostalgia bait, you'll enjoy it for that. Eddie Murphy gives a pretty decent, kind of boring performance, but he gives his, you know, what Eddie Murphy does. And it's just full of like, you know, things that you recognize. That's kind of where it lands. So with that said, nothing like, you know, extraordinary. It's not the greatest film in the world, but it's entertaining for 2 hours or whatever. So there you go. Anyways, with that said, that's my long-winded spiel on Beverly Hills Cop Axel F, which should be on Netflix very, very soon. So check it out. It's good for Beverly Hills Cop. So anyways, with that said, thank you so much for watching. In the comments below, what is your favorite part of Beverly Hills Cop? What is your favorite Beverly Hills Cop movie? Is it the first one? Is it the second one? Third one? Let me know in the comments. Are you looking forward to this movie? All that good stuff. But with that said, thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see on this channel, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find out what's coming next. And if you like this video, awesome, hit that like button. But other than that, thank you so much, and we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out, guys.